Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's June the 24th. We're a few minutes late. 2025. It's a beautiful day here. It's a Tuesday. I'm actually able to keep my days in line. It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day in St. Pete, and we have something that I've been wanting to bring to you. I'm going to start, and I think a few of us are going to do this. This takes a clan. I think not just a one-man show, but we're going to start debates, and we're going to do debates proper instead of this trashing and smashing and type of stuff that we do sometimes on Spaces. We get a little carried away. We're going to try to run some proper debates. And look, first off, if you guys, I'm just going to go to one screen here real quick, guys. If you don't like talking about other protocols, if you don't like talking about other businesses, if you don't like talking about other opportunities, I don't know how you can be smart. So my job is to come in. One, you guys invited me into the Bitcoin complex, and now I'm able to now use my legacy understanding and play that on top of Bitcoin. If there's Solana out there, or XRP, or Billy Bop, Dooley Dupes, Visa, MasterCard, we have to know what's happening around the ecosphere, okay? Like, it's not about, oh, I'm crazy because I'm looking at Volkswagens while I drive a Range Rover, right? I don't, like, let's not be crazy here, okay? This is a family investment. This is about creating legacy. So in order to know how good I am, I must know the enemy. I must know what other people are thinking, how they're thinking. And when BlackRock starts putting billions of dollars on ETFs that have nothing to do with Bitcoin, I'm going to start listening to it and looking at it. And you're making a mistake if you don't do that. So we're going to gather up people like we have in the house tonight. We got Dustin. We've got Scott, known as Darkside, Kyle Kemper, and Joe Colarsari is supposedly joining us, unless he's in the toilet right now doing the little pre-debate runs.
Joe doesn't like a good argument. I think I scared him off, Gary.
Well, you do scare people off sometimes.
He doesn't want these pit vipers. Mog.
I think he's up for it with you guys. So what we'd like you guys to do, I'm going to have everybody first introduce themselves. If you guys don't know these guys, we normally do Spaces, so you may not know what their faces look like. We're going to try and grab Joe. If you guys could all retweet the room with Joe C in it and say, where the are you, Joe C, hotshot? Dustin, why don't we open it up with you? Give us, 30-second background story on who you are and what you're going to be representing today, buddy.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us, Gary. Darkside, I'm sure Joe will eventually summon up the courage to come join us. Now, I love debate. I have a background in debate. I'm also heavily involved in all kinds of different blockchain projects. My background's in politics. I worked for Steve Bannon for a long time. I was one of the most prominent people in the Tea Party movement. I founded We Build the Wall and built President Trump's prototype border wall on an international boundary in 6 months. I was debanked 2 months before the 2020 election and turned to crypto in order to keep myself alive and keep providing for my family. I am not a maxi of any kind for any chain. And today, with my man Kyle Kemper, we will be representing
Can't hear you, Gary.
We're going to go to Kyle Kemper right after that awesome introduction by Dustin. Thank you, Dustin. Kyle.
Hey, everybody. So I'm Kyle Kemper, Canadian. Was orange pilled in 2013 and started my journey towards orange pilling others, and was one of the most, have basically dedicated my entire life towards Bitcoin awareness, crypto adoption, art, creation, innovation, and I'll be representing Solana here today. And I'm stoked to do that. I love Bitcoin, but I think Solana is truly powerful as well, but I'll save the arguments for when we get in it. And I'm wearing a tuxedo because we also have an ordinal project called the Decentralized Gentleman Club that is seeking to raise the standards on chain. Cope is temporary, folks. The class is eternal.
I like it. I like it. Scott, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we've had a little hiccup with Joe. Joe's evidently in a long hearing. So we're going to have to grab somebody from the room. I'm going to search through comments, see who's in here, and see, unless you want to pick somebody and reach out to them, we're going to kill a little time here. Scott, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody how you and I met. Actually, I think that's a really interesting story, and become friends.
Yeah, so look, I'm a long-term TradFi guy. Started on the options floors in 1989. Not to date myself. Was also a technologist, always fascinated by technology. Around 2008, 2009, started a firm by the name of Dash Financial, trying to bring true agency to the options markets, trying to solve for some serious problems that existed in the microstructure. 2013, I'm on a flight to Spain. I read the white paper, read it about 8 times, land on the ground in Madrid, download an app called Local Bitcoins, meet some random Spaniard behind the hotel in Madrid, and bought my 500 euro. That's all they'd let me take out of the ATM worth of Bitcoin. And that started my journey into distributed ledger technologies, Bitcoin. How I met Gary. Yeah, so I came to one of Gary's events down at his place. Absolutely spectacular event thrown by Node 40. I really enjoyed it. Met a whole bunch of family offices. Learned a lot about not just Bitcoin, but DeFi and the entire space. It was tremendously educational, as well as meeting some unbelievable people. And yeah, I also hopped up on one of Gary's spaces. It was the day after the election, and I was driving back from Montana to Vegas, and Gary's hosting a space. I've never done anything on Twitter. I didn't even, my account was just, for me to scan the news. And Gary's asking, hey, is there a quant out there? Does anyone understand, is there a quant? So, I pressed that request to speak button. I remember, Gary, you called me up and I called you Grant right away. So you threw me back down. But then I came back up and, talked for 30 minutes. We had a great chat. And man, it's been a downhill ride ever since. I have enjoyed so much getting to know all of you, all the people in Bitcoin Twitter, and going to conferences. Just amazing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, man. I mean, 3 years ago, I had never done this. And now I look at it as like, this is an awesome tool. Now the question is, am I going to use it properly? Or am I going to do what I see sometimes? And I told you guys, hey, every time I start criticizing, I'm just going to come up with a counter to the criticism. I don't like all the drama. Okay, there was like 15 or 20,000 people yesterday on 8 spaces talking about killing people. And then there's about 600 people in a room talking about wealth. And I'm like, wow, what is messed up about this? I mean, it just is messed up bad. So I look at this, and having watched people communicate poorly, talk over each other, scream at each other, not let anybody answer the question or answer a question that wasn't even asked. I was like, hey, maybe we could do debates here. And I'm hoping that Mr. Musk at some point understands this is an education platform. It is not a pornography platform. If it's a pornography platform, I'm probably not going to be here very long. Okay, I would love to meet someone here, but I'm not like doing that here. Okay? I don't need to see women's breasts. Send me your fucking wallet. Okay, send me your wallet and show me your stack. Now that'll get my attention. But the hoodwink on it, I think the education part of this, to be able to debate 4 men actually or women, and have a healthy debate. And I think this is a good one. I own Solana. And I own Bitcoin. I own a shitload of Bitcoin, and I own probably, life-changing Solana for most people. But it's something, if I lost it, I would not die. I mean, nothing's going to really happen. I wouldn't even know it. So I'm not Mr. Puritanical Bitcoin guy. I'm probably never going to be that guy. But I'm 86% allocated, so you can go fuck off on the other piece of it about my purity. Let's see, Dark, we need to get you another guy in here because Joe looks like he's going to be late. We're going to debate. The model I've set up should have us debating this for about 60 minutes. So I plan on us all getting out of here and going back to our families around 6:30, hour and 15 minutes from here. I don't know how we're going to deal with this unless Cheney wants to take the side with Scott or Scott.
We'll let Cheney like continue to bring up the comments and do stuff. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I know somebody from the comments is happy to take the Team Bitcoin with
So
Dark
I'm
side.
happy to go at it. I'm happy to go at it alone.
I also, Gary, you could also take the Bitcoin side. And
Yeah, I'm just trying to be the moderator. But if you guys start beating up on him, if Joe doesn't show, let's do it that way. Let's leave it open for Joe to pop in. I'm sure he will. So the conversation basically is these are the only rules. These are pros. They're not going to fuck with me. What we're going to do is this isn't about Bitcoin for 12 hours. This is Bitcoin versus Solana for 4+ years. And you guys can decide what the 4+ years are, or we can just say, hey, it's 4+ years. But I hear this conflation all the time between, hey, I'm going to go buy XRP and I'm buying Bitcoin. It's like, bro, you're not going to hold XRP for 8 years. Like, you're not going to do it, right? Like, if you do that, you're making a monster mistake. It's just too much risk. And we're talking about 100% of your position, right? Like, come on. So yeah, you have to compare these time periods. Y'all agree? 4 years?
So
Can't change it, right? Can't. Like,
no, I think that is a general criteria is fair. I just a little history on like this comes up. So I regularly do the spaces with Gary and Darkside, right? And everybody once in a while take these little side pot shots at Solana, right? And usually I let it go, right? I realize we're in a Bitcoin space, but I actually think that people are missing what is an incredible opportunity. I will say that like our goal is not to.
you're clever, you're already getting in your punches, huh? That's not fair now. My job is the moderator.
I'm just laying out some of the
battlefield
here.
You're smart, right? Bro, but I'm not going to let you get away with it. Okay, so we're going to start. Okay, we're going to let the Solana team go first, actually, because I think you, as a smaller market cap, deserve to go first. So we'll start with Dustin, I think. Well, you guys tell me how you want to start. First guy gets 3 minutes to present, and then there's going to be a counter proposition by Darkside. Okay, he can do his 3 minutes, and then we're going to beef up that 3-minute discussion, beat it up a little bit for a minute or so, and then we're going to go on to, okay, let's go to another 3-minute discussion on what other reasoning. So you don't have to throw your whole whack out, right? Let's take this pieces at a time. I would encourage you to take the biggest, most important pieces to you. So we cool? Is that all good? Cheney, can Cheney in the background help me on the timer? I don't want to go into 5-minute diatribes. I don't think that's cool.
Yeah. So we need to come up with some way for us to have like a,
15
10-second warning. We don't have to be like, Hitler-esque with like exactly on time. Just start wrapping your points up and try to keep it around the time. I think that's
beautiful. Fun. So who from the Solana side is going to go first?
I am prepared to lay out like our general thesis on this one.
Okay. Cheney, you ready? If Cheney's ready, then tick-tock. You got 3 minutes, big boy.
All right. So welcome to the debate, everybody. Happy to be here. Our goal as Team Solana here is not to argue that Solana and Bitcoin are somehow opposed to one another. Our argument is simply that Solana provides an opportunity because it's going after a completely different business, which is while Bitcoin is obviously the revolutionary leader that gave us the innovation of blockchain and has spurred us into this like new age of monetary policy and transacting with each other, that provides other opportunities. And Solana is absolutely a winner in stepping up to fill that. So generally speaking, why I would encourage people not to sell their Bitcoin for Solana. That is not the argument that we're trying to make here at all. What we're saying is Bitcoin is an opportunity, but so too is Solana. And none of us have a crystal ball for exactly how that's going to play out. But I think exposing yourself to really strong opportunities is a wise investment strategy over the course of 4 years and 8 years. And I believe Solana has shown undoubtedly that they are prepared to step up and fill a very important market need because they do something entirely different. Whereas Bitcoin's a store of value, Solana is prepared to step in and handle the kind of massive volume necessary for the tokenization of real world assets and everything else, which is in order to conduct the kind of business and point of sale transactions that Bitcoin has afforded the opportunity because we're switching away from the old broken system. We're going to need a chain and a system that allows for the kind of speed and consistency that Solana has built up. Now, why? The 4-year question, I imagine, will be something that is attacked by Bitcoin because it's one of the biggest Bitcoin strengths, which is there is a long history at this point of Bitcoin success. We all know that's true. The reason that I'm comfortable holding Bitcoin for 4 or more years is very clear, which is what we have seen from the innovative standpoint allows them to create and to move with market changes and technology changes that happen at exponential speeds. And so making sure that you have a chain that can adapt as quickly as Solana is able to adapt is absolutely critical. As far as longevity, the incoming president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the peacemaker himself, peacemaker in chief, what blockchain did he choose to launch his meme coin on? Solana. How many Ethereum projects, blue chip, like, I don't know, Pudgy Penguins would be one startling example, chose to leave Ethereum in order to launch their internal tokens on Solana? We have numerous use cases of projects leaving Ethereum because of the gas fees and the lag and latency and launching their tokens on Solana. And because of that kind of volume and adoption, Solana leads the way by far in cryptocurrency for the number of new apps that are being built and the number of transactions on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. And for that reason, having exposure to Solana provides a massive amount of potential upside. You're muted, Gary.
Yeah, thank you for being within 3 minutes. That was well done. Scott, do you want to take the other side?
Yeah, I'd love to. So look, I don't disagree with much of what Dustin said. I think he's laid out the case that Bitcoin is the apex predator. It's the North Star asset to fix a broken financial system. I don't think there's any debate as to that. The question comes around Solana, to be quite honest. I think Dustin did a nice job. He pointed out, look, hey, the Trump launched his meme coin on Solana. But what did Trump really do, right? Trump launched a meme coin. It traded up to some, I don't know, 60, 70 billion dollars in valuation. The family sold $500 million worth of the meme coin onto the community. And what did they buy? They bought Bitcoin and they bought Ethereum. So they didn't buy Solana, to the best of my knowledge. And I think that speaks a lot. Look, my complaint with Solana is not its speed. It's not its functionality. It is a fast technology, right? I don't know. We could debate whether it's a blockchain. That's interesting. But it is a very fast, unique technology that has enabled casino gaming on the internet, right? And that's what meme coins are. That's what pump.fun is. But ultimately, I guess my core problem is similar to my experience on Wall Street. Businesses that have as their core model a rug pull, right? Ultimately, all of these coins, all of these meme coins, they will all go to zero, and that's sort of in their charter, right? That is fully disclosed when they issue these meme coins. Hey, look, they're not really worth anything. They don't really accomplish anything. They're gambling tokens. So on the one hand, you have Solana, which I view very similar. Look, I spent a lot of time in Vegas. I view Solana very much the way I view the Wynn Casino. It's beautiful. The Venetian is beautiful, right? But I can assure you, 10 years from now, there will be a more beautiful, a bigger, a more expensive casino, as there always has been throughout Vegas's history. When I started going to Vegas, it was the Desert Inn. The Desert Inn isn't even there right now. It's gone, right? So that's my issue with these things. Look, JP Morgan just announced that they're going to use Base, which is an Ethereum-based chain and token for their stablecoin, right? That's a big deal. And what it tells you is that the moat or the barrier to entry to compete with Solana is not very high. Unlike Bitcoin, which has probably the biggest moat I've ever seen of any technology ever created, right? Solana really doesn't have a moat. Its moat is its user base, bigger, faster, stronger, right? But we always know in technology, bigger, faster, stronger always gets trumped by something that's bigger, faster, and stronger, right? That's the nature of technology. So I guess my argument here is that I don't think we have any debate on Bitcoin as the apex predator. The real question is Solana here to stay, or is Solana a flash, a flash in the pan, something that's got a huge user base today, but tomorrow will be left, holding the bag.
So,
Scott, thank you very much for that. Now, Dustin, you're responding, but I was hoping to go maybe to you. So you guys want to go back and forth for maybe a minute and a half?
Yeah.
Is that, Kyle, you cool with that?
I definitely want to respond. I don't mind. I can make a couple quick responses and kick it to Kyle if he wants to do a more formal, full response. But
I think what I'd like to do is maybe beat this one down a little bit and then move on to another subject.
Let me drop in here for a second.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Okay, so Bitcoin is 14 years old or 15 years old now, and it's gotten to this incredible place where it is now. Solana only launched in 2020, and one of the things is energy goes where energy flows, and so there's 100 million users on Solana, and I agree with what Scott was saying around it does have that casino mentality. Just like in the early days of the .com, it was a shit show. It was all over the place. But out of all of this energy and all of this experimentation, there's going to become some real utility, because the future is mass tokenization. I'll say it is hyper Bitcoinization as well, but the future is mass tokenization. And what Solana is enabling is hyper tokenization and the creation. And there's this experiment. And right now, yes, a lot of them are gambling and rugs and pumps and dumps, but that does not mean the entire chain is reflective of that. Out of this chain, it's bigger, it's faster, it's more powerful. Has bigger throughput. It has, it's not quite as stable as Bitcoin, but it's been very stable. And we're seeing this mega adoption. I think we're going to see a lot more brands come on board with it. And we're seeing Bitcoin now, the Bitcoin ecosystem is developing. It's trying to do a bunch of the things that Solana has succeeded with Liquid, with BRC20, even with runes. There is exploration and experimentation towards trying to capture some of that market that Solana is doing. But the thing is, Solana has succeeded, and there are excellent tools. Phantom Wallet is a fantastic wallet. It is one of the best wallets out there as far as user experience goes. Something that Bitcoin companies couldn't figure out over 14 fucking years. Pardon my French. And so we're actually seeing with Solana massive adoption coming in. And guess what? That's actually good for Bitcoin too, because people are getting burned and wrecked. I looked at my Moonshot wallet the other day. I put $200 in it. It's got $11 in it. It's not a great.
Who is this guy? It's
not a great sign.
What are you doing?
No, but I'm telling you, but it proves though that you can create this, and there is so much opportunity. And as we see larger brands start to enter into this, and the throughput and the ability, this chain is not going anywhere, and the development and the ecosystem is strong and growing. So I'm long on Solana. I think it's going to continue to rise up the chart. I wouldn't even put the stables in the chart. The stables and the fact that Goldman Sachs is using Coinbase. That is not, for me, that's not an endorsement of the technology. That's actually more of a warning sign for Coinbase. To be honest, I think a lot of us have some hesitations around that. If you're storing coins in Coinbase, you might want to consider self-custody options. I'm going to land there for now.
Kyle, thank you. Thank you very much. Scott, go ahead. You got 3. Give it a minute and a half if you could.
Yeah. So look, everything Kyle says is true. I mean, the argument again is that I view Solana as becoming a victim of its own success because it's built its brand around a business model of rug pulling and people losing money, right? I think it's going to be very difficult for them to transition into a world with legitimate brands. And we're seeing that, right? I mean, whether you like it or not, whether you like Goldman Sachs or not, or JP Morgan or not, right? These are monster companies. They're essentially monopolies inside of a fiat system. And they're not picking Solana as their methodology for moving stables, right? That's for a reason, right? It's not because the tech isn't good. It's because the brand has tarnished itself by wrapping itself around meme coins, right? And we can get into a long discussion on meme coins.
You have wrap stables on Solana?
I understand. What I'm saying is that they're not choosing the Solana chain as the default chain by which they're going to move their coins. You can wrap a lot of things on Solana. There's wrapped Bitcoin now on Solana. Again, these chains, they don't have barriers to entry. But, I would ask Kyle or Augusta, what is the moat? Other than the user base and Phantom Wallet, which is nice technology, what exactly is the moat? We understand the Bitcoin moat. We understand proof of work. We understand the network effect. We understand, the absolute brilliance of the time chain and the difficulty adjustment. But what exactly is the moat? Because what I'm seeing is, just a ton of bigger, faster, stronger chains being developed pretty much, by the month. So ultimately, you have to deal with this competitive landscape. You have to have a moat. And if you're a tech company, because let's face it, Solana's not a blockchain company. It's a tech company. Currently it's a casino company wrapped with a technology wrapper. But what's the moat? What's stopping the giant casino companies from getting into this game with unlimited funds? Now, the one moat you have today is the user base, which is enormous. But MySpace had a really big user base, and years later, Facebook, it was gone. So that's the risk when you deal in what I consider to be microcap tech stocks, right? You may be right, you may win. Solana may end up being the winner. But when you deal in microcap tech companies, right, you have to own a gigantic portfolio of them and hope just a couple win. It's a very tough investment thesis. So I'll land the plane there.
Yeah. Now, guys, just for the audience, let's level set, because some of the conversation, I think we might have wandered off a little bit. We're making a 4-year commitment with your family's money. This is how this conversation came up. Dustin was like, I said, hey, Dustin, you get a medical report from your great doctor, and he says, bro, you're going into a hibernation chamber for the next 4 to 8 years. The world is going through a shitstorm. You have to put all of your assets into one application, not 2, not 12, not 15. You get no second chances. You wake up in 4 to 8 years. What are you holding? You holding Solana or Bitcoin? This is it's an extreme way to look at things, but it's great for me. Hey, am I going down that road, or am I going down a bunch of roads? And I've gotten rich going down one road and just keep stacking it. And if I went on the wrong road, I go, shit, dude, I need to back up. I'm going to get raped here. And then I back up, get on a new road, and go down the concentrations. I just want everybody to understand this is about, you're going to God going, hey, I made the right decision for the right reasons for 4 years. So Bitcoin versus Solana. Why don't we let's do the negative side. Let's flip this on the other side of it and allow Scott to talk about the negatives of Solana. And then the Solana team can talk about the negatives of Bitcoin. Scott?
Yeah. So look, again, I'll repeat, I'll kind of go down the same thesis that I view Solana as a tech company in the casino gambling space, right? So look, who are their competitors? You've got some of the biggest private equity companies in the world that own casinos. You've got some public companies that own casinos. And where are you going to land? Where's the institutional desire to own Solana? Right? I guess to me, I don't see it. I think there's a lot of negatives coming Solana's way. First being competition. The second one that many people haven't considered, but let me take my Wall Street approach to this, which is they're going to list ETFs on Solana. And what that's going to do, and people think that's a positive. I think it's a huge negative, and I'll tell you why. Today, if I want to short Solana, I have to have a very sophisticated investment strategy, right? I have to be hooked up with all the different weird exchanges, and it's not easy to get a short exposure to Solana. When they list the ETF and then eventually list options on that ETF, you're going to get the entire TradFi community, which is going to be putting on the short Solana, long Bitcoin, short XRP, long Bitcoin, short Ethereum, long Bitcoin positions. Right? Those trades are going to become exceptionally crowded, and Solana is going to have to trade based on some relationship to its earning power, right? To its actual use case, not based on the greater fool theory. Now, I just want to I'll land the plane there, but I'll say that, to take Bitcoin's side, Bitcoin's going after the global bond market, right? So while one asset's going after a casino market, another asset's going after the global bond market, one of the largest, well, the largest market in the world. So I think you have to consider if you take Gary's question seriously and you have 4 years and you're going into hibernation, I don't think I can't even make an argument for anything but Bitcoin. I'll land the plane there.
All right. I'm just going to jump in and start somebody's mute up because I'm getting an echo. Dark side, talk to anybody who's young and they'll be happy to show you where you could short Solana on 100 different perpetual websites. It is not something new that's going to be introduced, that people are going to have somehow new access to be able to short Solana. And while I understand from a debate standpoint why you'd want to focus on the casino aspect of Solana, it absolutely ignores what Solana is doing and where it's going after. Whereas Bitcoin is going after, like, the big dog that Bitcoin is chasing down is gold with a $10 trillion market cap. The big dog that Solana is chasing down is Visa and MasterCard and global payments at $100 trillion of regular annual volume. And so the competition, right, is that we're not going after Solana. Solana is not trying to fill the shoes of Bitcoin or trying to replace something that is antiquated like gold in the same arenas. We're going after completely and totally different arenas. And there's two things that I'll say to the argument, the casino argument. Number one, because gambling and porn are always at the forefront of innovation. Because of the extra pressures applied to them, they're forced to innovate at speeds that allow them market benefits and to get out ahead of the curve. That's number one. Number two, on the casino argument, is to completely ignore the DeFi abilities of Solana, which is there is no better platform to fulfill the financial instruments, the ability to stake and earn yield, the ability to tokenize options and other items than Solana. It's literally built for DeFi and to step in and go after the big beast that is Visa and MasterCard. And again, the big dog in that, there's 100 trillion to go after. Whereas in the store of value sector, right, you're going after the big dog on the block is $10 trillion in gold. And so when we go after that, and Solana comes after that. As far as the staying power, the new casino, one thing that we know is you're right. There is always going to be somebody who tries to build faster. But when you have the user base and you apply the necessary ability to innovate and make changes as necessary, it's not something that is fractionally faster is not just going to be able to step in and take away the Solana user base, because we are already established with our Phantom wallets. We know how to use the chain. We have long-standing partnerships and staking agreements, whether that's with Joel or Marinade or all of the different places that we're doing it. I see a bunch of people in the comments who are like, oh, but Ethereum is losing their blue chip projects to Solana to launch their tokens. And so I think that the competition, maybe the framing Bitcoin versus Solana isn't the right one, but if I'm parking my money for 4+ years, right, am I concerned that the window for Solana success is shorter than 4 years? The current president of the United States and his wife have tokens on the chain. And so what do you think happens when Donald Trump gets out of office? He's already doing dinners and meetings. And I get that it's nice to get into something nice and cozy and safe like Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that the people who would want to park money in Solana for 4 years have the same investor profile as people who might want to park their money in Bitcoin. But there is undoubtedly, with the DeFi options available on Solana, an advantage to putting money in Solana and being comfortable sitting on it for 4+ years, because they continue to innovate and they continue to scalp people and projects from everywhere else in the industry.
Thank you. So let's be clear though, okay? The audience we're talking about is you. You're 40 some odds, okay? Maybe early 50s. You've got families. We're talking about, this is the generation, right? Now, you're telling me there's going to be other people coming into that generation that don't go into Bitcoin. Maybe that was your point. So just for the audience, okay, right now, Bitcoin's worth $2 trillion. Solana is worth about $69 billion market cap.
He said 69.
Call it 70 billion. Oh, you guys are so funny. You know, when I'm doing one of these, I don't think about other stuff, but you guys have y'all have a ability. It must be the age thing. It's exactly market cap is $77 billion. So you guys are saying that well, for the Solana guys, what do you think Bitcoin does in 4 years? And then what do you think Solana does? If we could do that in 15 seconds from both of you guys, that'd be awesome.
Kyle, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Sure. I mean, one of the things that
You're going to come out of Kyrie.
we didn't talk about was like how Kraken is literally doing stocks. They're doing
We're gonna get there. I just wanted to understand, on the audience to understand, we're talking about a $2 trillion,
$2 trillion,
and 70
$80 billion stocks, payments, everything. I think that the delta for growth is higher on the higher return potential. That said, like, I don't believe in your statement of you have to choose one or the other. The whole great thing about crypto is it creates freedom of choice, that people can choose whatever the fuck they want. But I think a balanced portfolio, definitely holding gold, definitely holding some Solana. You don't want to miss this train.
So I'll answer the question direct. So I think that 4 year we will see Solana go into the trillion, like we'll surpass $1 trillion in total market cap, which is a ton of upside. And I also believe that Bitcoin will go up and surpass gold at $10 trillion in market cap. And I don't have a crystal ball to say, I think that they run together and they both run hard. And I'm not sure which one outperforms the other one.
Well, should Solana, I mean, you're getting ready to hand your keys over to your wife and you're going to say, hey, look, I decided to do 50-50 because I couldn't decide which was better. That's kind of sounds like where you guys would head. Wow, you would really do that, huh? You would see, I could see, you think it's going to go up 15x. I think to me, to make that kind of decision, I have to be comfortable with that it is going to outperform it, and it's going to outperform it significantly. Like, I'm surprised y'all are. Well, I'm the moderator, but you're saying it doesn't. You're not saying it's going to outperform Bitcoin. You're saying you think it would, but it's not. You're not saying it's going to be a quadruple.
What I'm saying is,
because I hope it's a quadruple. Like, I think for the risk I'm taking, it should be 4 times the return, because quite frankly, I've seen 4 times the amount of noise on a 20th of the position, right? It's a lot of noise for the size of the position. And it does move more violently than Bitcoin for sure.
But there definitely is a lot more volatility. And there's also an element with Solana still of being early. And I've always appreciated, Gary, your comment that being early is painful. And that, right, like when you're early, you're going to go, which is why I actually really like the 4-year delta on the argument here, which is the thing that really excites me about Sol. I have zero doubt that Sol is going to give you a 4x. If you buy right now, that you're going to see Sol above $1,000. I have absolute confidence because we're going through this tech transitory phase away from the old systems and to the new systems. And I give a ton of credit to Bitcoin for giving us that. But where for Bitcoin, right, do they go after this? We have already started right. We have already seen the beginning of government adoption and accumulation, of Wall Street and finance accumulation. Where do they go from here at this point to continue to expand and grow with the kind of X's that you can still get with Solana at its current strong but relatively small market cap in comparison to Bitcoin?
Scott?
Wow. I don't see it, with all due respect. I don't see the upside. I don't see the moat. Professional investors view hope as a drug, as a bad drug. And, I see what I'm hearing is hope. I hope this works out. I hope the user base converts to DeFi. I hope that we're able to bring on products that actually benefit society, unlike the meme coin world that's currently using Solana. All of this is hope, right? When you look at the potential for serious DeFi platforms, none of them are using Solana today. None that I know, right? I mean, stable coins are not really moving on Solana rails. They're moving on Ethereum rails. They're moving on Tron rails. Tether has done a deal to move on Lightning rails. We know JP Morgan chose Base. I think Goldman Sachs as well is going to go that route, which is a Coinbase chain on Ethereum. There's a reason why the biggest brands in the world are staying away from Solana. And again, it's this victim of their own success story. They've thrown in with meme coins, and so many people have a bad experience. We use Trump coin as an example. You keep bringing up Trump and Melania coin. So many people got wrecked on those coins, right? So many. It was an absolute catastrophe from an investment standpoint for so many people. And I'll go back to what you said. Well, it's easy to short Solana, but if you're a Wall Streeter and you have a prime broker, it's not easy to short Solana, right? It's not cross-collateralized. None of these perp exchanges are cross-collateralized by your prime broker. You'd have to get up a separate prime relationship with, let's say, Coinbase or some crypto prime broker. That's not easy to do. It's extremely expensive for Wall Streeters. But once they're able to put these shorts on and lean on these securities, they're going to. They're going to do so viciously, right? The amount of paper Solana that's going to be created through short interest in the ETF is going to blow your mind. And I don't think you're taking that into your calculations, right? Solana is going to have to live in a real world asset. It's going to be very difficult for Solana and for all of these altcoins. They're all going to be struggling when they have to live inside of a true Wall Street container. And the ETFs are going to put them inside that container.
I can appreciate the argument that right? Especially for my Bitcoiners who have who are now going through the adoption of the evil system that they were designed to take down. And it's got to be hard to watch Wall Street coming in and owning what was supposed to be the revolutionary asset. But I will say, as far as Solana goes, again, the casino element is only one part of it. And the innovation always comes out of the gambling, casino, and porn industries. There is all the examples of that's where the innovation happens. These tokens on Sol are going to add utilities. They're going to be adopted into digital ecosystems by all kinds of companies and brands. And as far as the stablecoin argument, right, I get in Bitcoin, you guys try to like shut out all of the other stuff that happens. We just had the announcement from Fiserv that they've chosen Solana for their stablecoin rails. I don't have the number offhand. I was hoping to have somebody who might be just a little bit more technical to help me out. But I know that Circle just minted another crap ton of stable coins on Solana. I want to say the last one was another 250 million. Right. The idea that stable coins are going to be singularly stuck to a single chain ignores what the base premise that I laid out in the very beginning was, and which Kyle so eloquently built out on, which is we have these different chains to go after different purposes. And we are not committed to one chain for which stablecoins we're going to use. So I would be shocked if any of these companies end up only using one specific blockchain for their stablecoin usage. They're going to expose themselves to wherever the innovation is, and we know that that's Solana.
And so you're making the argument that you're going after Visa and MasterCard. I mean, Gary understands these businesses really, really well. They hate gambling and porn, right? They absolutely do. And so do all. So do all.
They actually love it. But they tell their shareholders and the regulator they just can't stop it, and they charge more for it.
But isn't that the whole point of why we're here? Which is the whole thing is decentralization. You're right. It comes with some ugliness. It comes with something different. We have been preaching to people, everybody on here, right? Like Kyle got back to 2013, me back to 2013, Gary to 2016. We've been preaching to people about things like decentralization, censorship resistance, and self-custody. And that liberty comes with risk, which is if you are taking control and taking the power away from the banks by making yourself your own bank, that you know what? You're right. You might get, there's no customer service line to call if you get drained. We've watched this over and over again. And so some of those like ugly elements that you got, like the old timers who are used to the safety of the protection of big daddy government and banking regulations, are like, oh my God, it's porn and gambling. It's so scary. That is a consequence of freedom. And right, if we want to get away from the censorship, and I haven't talked about the phones and the communication channels that are also being built out on Sol, right? With Sol Mobile and using the increasingly durable network that's being built for censorship-resistant communication, which I think is also another massive win for Solana. But you know what? If you have an actual censorship-resistant ability for people to freely access stuff, you're going to get gambling. You're going to get tickers that are ugly. You're going to get pornography. It's going to happen.
I'm so glad you brought up censorship, because in order for Solana to go after stablecoin rails, to go after payment rails, to go after Visa and MasterCard, as you suggested, then they're going to have to institute some serious censorship. As we know, that you cannot traverse in stablecoins unless you have the ability to back those transactions out. The government has the final say. Now, albeit I'm a fan of stablecoins because they're a system of innocent until proven guilty, whereas the current system we have, SWIFT and ACH, is guilty until proven innocent. Right? I think we can all acknowledge that. But this concept of censorship is going to become a big issue. And when you say decentralized, well, it's not really decentralized if they can stop your transaction, if they can cancel your Solana transaction, right? That's a little scary to me. And let's go over to Bitcoin for a second, which truly is censorship resistant, right? They can, I guess you could say that somebody could black market my coins, right? But that still doesn't stop me from transferring them at will and transferring them to somebody else, right? You can't. The only true permissionless, trustless network, truly decentralized, is Bitcoin. So if we're going to go down the road of, hey, decentralized and censorship, well, then you only have one choice of where to put your money, and that's Bitcoin.
So
Well,
one of the dangers with Bitcoin right now, though, is the centralization and the custody of so much of the supply of coin. And one of the attack vectors that actually exists is, if there is an unfriendly regime in place, there is the ability to go after the casas and go after the holders and literally confiscate the Bitcoins. And because so much of it has been consolidated, and we're seeing a more push towards that of just trusting, or at least at the retail level and at the institutional level, of trusting custody providers as opposed to being in full self-control. Like, this is a big risk for Bitcoin, in my opinion.
I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you brought it up, because Bitcoin is money for your enemies, right? Bitcoin, anybody can do whatever they want with their Bitcoin. Obviously, I believe in self-custody. But Casa, since you mentioned Casa is a multi-sig platform, so they can't take your Bitcoin, right? They only have one key. It is not a.
Again,
It
you
is.
just need to if you know somebody's using Casa, then you just need to co-opt two of the parties. If there was a giant attack, an attack is viable, is foreseeable on getting the multiple key signers from a large organization like a MicroStrategy with a BitGo or with whoever they're holding. There is the ability to do a confiscation.
Good. You know what? If Coinbase ends up getting hacked, yeah, Bitcoin will go lower. Those coins will get distributed, and then we'll go higher again. Right?
I,
Like, these are not threats. When you talk about centralization, when we're talking about blockchains, centralization refers to some central authority that has permission to stop your transaction, has some permission to take your coins. Right? That doesn't exist in Bitcoin, but it does exist in Solana. It does exist in Ethereum. Look, Ethereum had the big hack. I think it was Bybit, right? They actually had a conversation about rolling back the chain.
Oh, I mean, when the
Right,
DAO got hacked, they did roll it back.
yeah, they rolled it back.
Really
All of go ahead, Dustin.
so the first thing I want to say, I'm old enough to remember when Bitcoin was savagely and brutally tied to Silk Road and all of the illicit things that Bitcoin can be used. And it's funny to hear Darkside elaborate now, because you know what? If I had taken the argument and listened to the argument back then that, Bitcoin is only used to buy illicit drugs on the internet, like the dark net and scary things, I would have not loaded up my Bitcoin bags, and I would not be as happy as I am today for making that decision. So hearing you make the same arguments about Sol, that, oh my God, it's only used for the casino, it's only used for these people who are doing rug pulls and other stuff. Again, the evolution is what's important. And the thing that I really have come to appreciate, Sol, is how fast they're able to innovate in comparison to Bitcoin. Right. And it's not, I don't want Bitcoin to be something that can be changed quickly and easily in order to adapt to whatever new technology is coming. But the one thing that I've seen from the Sol Foundation and Solana is that when problems arise or when they need to adapt, they're able to make some necessary changes, and they're building an extremely durable network. And it's, again, your ability to get in now, it's the same arguments that we heard a bit about Bitcoin, right, in 2013 and 2014 and 2015. And now that Bitcoin has graduated to the Wall Street and government adoption level, of course there's new changes and seriousness and hedges around it. But I would also argue that the same concerns that you have about people short, the action on Bitcoin likely precludes the kind of parabolic action that we've had in the past. I still think we're going above $10 trillion in replace gold, right? I'm still incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, but there's no doubt that the adoption of Wall Street and the ETFs and the money involved means that we have hedges on price action. That we're not going to see the kind of bull run that we've seen before. I really believe with any of the tokens. Like, it's why we're 2021, 2022. That was I don't know that I'm ever going to have that much fun again, being able to put blindfold on and throw money at things and just quadruple in a day or two. But what I will say with Solana, the same arguments that DarkSide is making against Sol is exactly what we heard about Silk Road and Bitcoin in its development stages as it brought itself up to be the dominant force.
So let me take the opposite argument there, which is that if you had tried to use Solana and built the Silk Road using Solana, the transactions would have been reversed by the federal government and it would have been shut down. Right? Bitcoin being uncensorable, that was the key that made perfect money. Money for your enemies, money for your friends, money for anybody, right? And that the Silk Road thing was a perfect play out of why Bitcoin became so important. The government couldn't stop it. They didn't have the ability to stop transactions. They didn't have the ability to censor. Right? If we tried the same experiment with Solana today, every transaction would be censored. The government would stop the transactions, and the Silk Road would never be able to get started. To me, that's a no-brainer. And again, it's not only that it's a gambling network. You're not addressing the bigger question, which is the moat. I keep coming back to what is the moat? What's stopping someone from building a bigger, better, faster Solana? Right? And the answer is nothing. The only thing Solana has going for it today is its user base and developer base. But as you just mentioned, so many of the developers that are coming to Solana have left Ethereum. And the same way that shows you the loyalty level of these developers, right? They leave Ethereum, they go to Solana. The second the big brands throw their weight behind whatever the next chain is, I have no idea, right? These developers will jump ship, right? In a way, they're whores. They're just going where the money is, right? The Bitcoin ecosystem is something entirely different. It's perfect money. It's a neutral reserve asset, and I'll take this one argument against something you said. You said, well, because of the derivatives complex, you don't see these big runs that we saw in 21. I think it's the exact opposite. I think it's because of the derivatives complex, because there's only 21 million Bitcoin, because you can't indefinitely short Bitcoin because of the blockchain. These derivative complexes are going to reach their threshold, their max threshold. And what's going to happen, mark my words, write this down, is that we're going to get to the point where you can't borrow Bitcoin, where IBIT puts begin to trade at a huge premium, where futures contracts begin to trade at a tremendous discount to spot because there's no Bitcoin available for loan. We're going to get there faster than you think. And the blockchain, see, Wall Street's not ready for Bitcoin. Wall Street's used to being able to print more of whatever they need more of in order to grow and build their asset base. Bitcoin, you can't print more of, right? And the only way, when they get to max short, when there's so many Bitcoin available for short, and there's Bitcoin in self-custody, my guess is there's probably 7-8 million Bitcoin out there that's available for loan to be shorted, right? When that gets used up, watch out. You're going to see an upside move that makes 21 look like a joke. And it's going to happen very, very quickly. It'll look something more like what happened with Porsche and Volkswagen in 2008, right? Where you see the ultimate short squeeze, right? And that will only lead smart Wall Streeters, and we know what the hedge funds are going to do. They're going to pile onto that trade. And it's going to happen at an unbelievable pace. So you say 10 trillion, I'll take 25 to 30 trillion in market cap. And I think, I'll say 4 to 5 years. Yeah, I think we're going to hit max, and the propellant, the fuel on the fire, will be the derivatives complex. It's going to unwind. It's going to unwind violently.
Dustin, is that you? Let's start shortening our comments a little bit here. We got 15 minutes to finish this up because I think it's been a really good conversation. I think you could do these too long, actually. That's what's becoming clear to me. You're nodding your head a lot, Dustin, as Scott was talking. Are you in agreement, or what's the nodding of the head?
Listen, I really appreciate Darkside, and it's not like I'm not heavily invested, right? Even more than Solana than Bitcoin, right? But in order to have a debate and discuss it, I actually am extremely bullish on Solana. And I have a feeling that's why, even with the kind of allocations that probably all of us have Bitcoin to other projects, that Solana is probably the other token that everybody should like be their number two. I don't disagree with Darkside. I think that the upside on Bitcoin is freaking phenomenal. And I think that revolution is actually why, like, I believe that Solana is poised with the durability of the network to step in and build the alternate rails to Visa and MasterCard so that we get away from some of the nonsense that we have to deal with them willy-nilly choosing the industries that they like so that they get to take larger fees out of it. By structuring what we could do with Solana, I believe that's where the opportunity is, and the growth and success that I've seen in the building and durability of their network leads me to have the kind of confidence that I absolutely can buy Solana and hold it for 4+ years. And so, yes, when I hear Darkside explain to it, I'm not gonna lie, I get very excited for my Bitcoin position because the dude is a freaking legend talking about Bitcoin. I did not sign up for this debate because I want to degrade what Bitcoin has been able to do in order to open up this brand new world. It's just, I can see the second, third, fourth order effects. And like, if we're able to challenge money and monetary policy at the base level, well, then why can't we go after some of these other bad actors in the global payment system?
Thank you, Dustin. There's some in the audience that think you would be awesome having this discussion against an XRP or against a Ethereum. I think that's probably maybe the next discussion we have, next week or the following. Scott, any response? Or Kyle, maybe. Kyle, why don't you?
Maybe I can just
need some help here, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the team needs help. I think has been an excellent discussion all around. I will say that I mentioned earlier, Kraken is introducing stocks on Solana. So taking the traditional markets and digitizing them. I think that is a very bullish indicator. There's a Solana treasury company too, DFDV, which is performing very well, is committed towards scaling it. There's no doubting the strength of Bitcoin. But back to the original point that I made is there is a lot of energy, that is happening within the Solana system that, Bitcoin also could have captured it. And I want to put my Bitcoin hat on for a second too, because, I really believe in Bitcoin as well. And like one of the challenges was privacy, just around the notion of you sending Gary, if you send someone, like you're buying a cup of coffee with Bitcoin, they're going to see your whole balance. We have issues there. But Lightning and LBTC solve that. The Liquid network can honestly do a lot of these examples that we're talking with Solana. Problem is, Blockstream are a bunch of developers and never actually brought it to market and hired any adoption engineering towards bringing the people in. However, because Solana went after the meme coin, went after the casino, and tapped into that greed cycle and that greed element and pushed that pioneering, innovative spirit, they were able to bring in a whole bunch. And yes, a lot of people got wrecked, but also, I truly believe there's going to be some excellent projects that come out of this because it's the era of hyper tokenization. But back to Bitcoin, you can do all this on Bitcoin now as well. Runes, BRC20, Alkanes, and the ordinals. And this is something a lot of the maxis don't like. They saw it as an attack on Bitcoin. That's why we launched the Decentralized Gentleman Club on Bitcoin, because it's an eternal ledger. Like that Bitcoin blockchain never changes. Your NFTs on Ethereum are stored on AWS or maybe IPFS. But with Bitcoin, your ordinals are on chain forever for all eternity. It's actually a good place for digital credentials. And as more and more of the smaller payments go on to Lightning and LBTC, which actually has privacy preserving technology or implementation, so we're not going to, we'll be able to have a more relative experience, like the Stake Shake example. That's amazing. It only took 15 years to get a big chain to accept Bitcoin purely. Thank goodness. And I hope, we see Jack in the Box next. And then maybe some other big chains kind of come along and see some real use. People are like, well, can I pay with Uber? Well, guess what? You've been able to pay for Uber with Bitcoin for 10 years, but you just got to buy a gift card in order to do it. There's so many ways you can choose Bitcoin, use Bitcoin. And I think that's one of the things. It's actually adopting this whole technology. And I'll say Solana is Bitcoin too. It's not BTC, but it is a derivative of the gunpowder invention that was Bitcoin. So all this space, there's so much opportunity, there's so much innovation, there's so much pioneering. And people are going to make mistakes. People are going to fuck up. People are going to get scammed. Every gold rush attracts bad actors. And that's just kind of the name of the game. I've seen it come. I've seen it go. The number of people that show up out of nowhere, like SBF. Where the fuck that guy come from? He showed up. He literally shows up out of nowhere. They launched Mobile Coin as for some reason, Mobile Coin got the exclusive listing on there. All of a sudden, they're piling all this stuff in. He names a stadium out of nowhere. Yeah. Dude, classic setup for a massive failure. That one has agency written all over it too, which is another thing. And even Bitcoin has agency written all over it too. And BTC does as well. So the whole space, frankly, does a little bit. But that's why let's focus on privacy. I like Monero too. I don't have the Monero hat. I would definitely put that one on as well. The great thing is choice and opportunity. Let's go, guys. We are on the same team together. It's okay to have differences of opinion. Personally, don't go very far.
Totally. Look, just because I shop at Amazon doesn't mean that I won't walk into Macy's every now and then, right? I mean, I'm not a criminal because I look around at the shopping opportunities. Look, I want to kind of bring this to an end because I think 45 minutes for a debate when you're doing it, it's actually longer than you think. I don't know what the audience is feeling like, but I actually think this is a really cool format. It's clearly not as good as we can get it. But I doing some research and getting these better. The audience seems to like them. I'm getting a lot of feedback on the comments. I'm gonna say that Storm wreck you guys today. Okay. I'm gonna give the win to Bitcoin. And the reason is because I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't even think you can answer it fairly, but look, truth is Solana has a big hiccup. Bitcoin keeps rolling. If Bitcoin had a big hiccup, I think Solana would get trashed. And that tells me a lot, right? It tells me, a lot of naysayers about Bitcoin and crypto talk about the tulip crash. They never talk about that Holland is still the fucking flower market of planet Earth today. See, people, it's the hub, man. Bitcoin is bigger than a token. It's actually becoming something much bigger. The other thing just the moat piece, okay? You guys brought up Visa, MasterCard. I would love to see the global payments deal on Solana. I guarantee you there's not one penny. If Solana paid Fiserv to do an integration, I'd be shocked. We should be asking, these are public companies now. Y'all should be asking, oh, really? What does that partnership actually look like financially? Is there a minimum in it? And who's paying it? Now, if Solana's getting paid it, wow, that gets me really interested in buying Solana. But what if Solana is paying Fiserv? Maybe I go invest in Fiserv. By the way, I won't because they're so fucked up. It's unbelievable. These payment companies are going to get slaughtered. And Visa and MasterCard, they'll be happy for Fiserv and FIS to get slaughtered because they're piggy in the middle. See, Visa and MasterCard are really piggy in the middle, but they'll take global payments and go, shit, you're out. You're out. There's going to be a fight in payments. I mean, a big fight. 300, I think it's 500 billion is Visa, MasterCard, and they have cash sitting on their balance sheet, making big premiums. So do not rule them out. They'll be worse than the CIA, Kyle. Those two groups are the CIA effectively. I mean, they're not going to let this entire market just walk through the front door and take 800 basis points from the pornography industry. No chance that's going to happen. Now the merchant, yeah, exactly.
Chip, all day long. We're 15 years in 2013, I thought by 2015 the whole world would be using Bitcoin. It's going to change everything.
Chip. It does take a long time, right? Like, but that is the opportunity. Now the problem is when you're doing the chip, I would focus on the biggest piece of ice in the bloody on the planet and wouldn't get caught up with, oh wow, I'm the biggest hammer on this little ice cube, right? Some of these ice cubes are pretty small, man. 70 billion. See, this is my problem. Wow, we're comparing a Godzilla that's 16 years old against a 5-year-old that's only worth 70 billion. And Visa could just like, oh wow, we'll just crush you. We'll block you. And they do this kind of stuff. The bankers will block people. They'll go to lunch and go, we don't like the Solana people, man. Just make it difficult. And they'll just make it difficult. Any closing comments? Because and part of the Solana team, when you started saying, hey, look, it's not realistic that somebody would do 100%. Well, but that's the question. That's the laboratory experiment. And I think you gave yourself a few back, you hurt yourself a little bit because you gave credit to, hey, that's not really. I think if you told me you were doing 100% Bitcoin, you were going to go sit in a freeze chamber for 4 years, I'd be like, that's an awesome decision, man. Because it's a no. If it goes bad, then everything else went bad.
So I want to say, we've been experimenting with debate format for a while. And one of the issues that we've had is that sometimes that means somebody has to take the weaker position. Obviously, comparing a $70 billion asset to a $2 trillion asset that's revolutionized the world. We knew coming in that we were taking the much more, but in order for us to develop the format, it helps to be able to actually have something that we can argue about.
Yeah,
because
listen, Dustin volunteered to take this side. Okay, he was like, so don't send him a bunch. Look, we're all just trying to. Scott will take the other side. I'll take any side of a debate, or I won't debate it because I actually know about the other side. This is a huge problem for crypto people. I so myopic with your own world. You know so much about the blockchain, but you didn't study how Visa is making their money or how the natural gas energy player is making their money.
And so I thought it was important for us to be able to really start building out the format. To be like, you know what? I love Solana. I'm not faking that I'm very, very bullish on Solana and that I've got a bunch of things. I'm also very bullish on meme coins. I see a next development phase where meme coins start getting implemented into some of these digital ecosystems in ways that are pretty exciting. That's one of the theses that I've been working on, like not at a just investor level, but as a creator and builder level, that I'm very, very like bullish and excited about. And so I was happy to even take the underdog position because I think sometimes if there's one thing that I think is toxic for Bitcoin is some of the Bitcoin maxis who shit on every other innovation that Bitcoin should be taking credit for, which is Bitcoin started this revolution. We have the ability to upset, and if we can upset and overturn fiat, then nobody is safe. I don't give a shit if you're Visa and MasterCard or whatever you are. We should be finding ways to go upset the bad guys who want centralized control and authoritarian tyranny. And like one of the things that I often get frustrated about with some of my Bitcoin fam is it's like, you know what, you're shitting on Solana, but we're actually if you come look at what we're trying to build and added your talent and skills, you might find that we actually could go and conquer another big segment that falls under the Bitcoin umbrella. Bitcoin should be taking credit, not trying to attack. And I think that's one of the critical components that we want to take out, even though we know we're taking the underdog side.
Yeah, that's why Dogecoin started, was literally the toxic element within Bitcoin when shit was just, people were just too much at each other's throats and fighting. It was like, we need something funny and mimetic. And guess what? Spawned Dogecoin. Guess what? Doge is also a digital global reserve currency. It's Bitcoin, with a little bit of a different policy. It's funny. It's awesome. It works. It's like Bitcoin training wheels. Doge rules.
Yeah. So Gary, I just first of all, I really want to thank you for putting this on. Dustin, you're an American legend, man. I thank you so much for all you've done. Your work with Bannon, a great American hero. Your work with the wall, your work here in Bitcoin land and in digital assets land. You're a hero. And Kyle, thank you. I really appreciate it. You know, and I look at the art behind you and the art behind Gary, and it makes me realize the importance of having a real stable currency, because in a world with stable currency, the arts flourish, music flourishes. We don't have to, we wouldn't be stuck into this world we're in today. I think back to Florence, right, and the Renaissance and how the arts flourished. And you know, I'll just land. I want to end here. My friend Puncher so eloquently states that Bitcoin is a protocol, right? Like fire, like the wheel, like energy, right? It is a protocol. You know, Solana is a technology, a really good technology, really unique technology. And you know, my hats off to the Solana community. Their user base is growing at rates that would make even Facebook jealous, right? They've done tremendously good things. But when it comes to savings, right, you want to be in the protocol, right? When it comes to having fun, when it comes to, maybe speculation, it's fine to speculate in Solana. I do understand. Look, you guys are put in an impossible position to try to debate Solana versus Bitcoin. I think you did an amazing job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Gary. You're the best. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate Dustin, Kyle. Really appreciate you guys. Kyle, I don't know if you got your last comments in. Happy to give you.
Bitcoin can be a lot of fun too, guys. So this, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. And Bitcoin is a lot of fun. This community is the best. Let's be excellent to each other. Even if you have disagreements with one another, be excellent to each other, because we all generally, I would say, for the most part, have a shared massive purpose, which is to make the archaic, cancerous Federal Reserve central banking system obsolete. And Bitcoin and this ecosystem enables that. If you don't want CBDCs, get your money out of the banks, because the system that we currently have is actually CBDC. It's inaction. And these stable coins, they're not the best either. Why would you want to be the stable coin? But anyways, doesn't matter. Be excellent. See art. Go support some artists. If you maxis are holding on to big bags, use some of it. Go support some artists. Support some creators. Do some good out there. Because if you die tomorrow with a big bag of Bitcoin, you could have done so much with it. Make sure you don't lose your keys too in the long run, because that's also just horrible. The fact that so many people are storing so much but haven't actually thought about what happens when they lose it all.
Great.
Kyle, you're awesome. Thank you, buddy.
Dark side, you the man. Appreciate you guys.
Hey guys, just a few closing comments. Cheney, maybe just smash it on my face. One, what I'd like to hear from you guys, we had 5,600 people in the room tonight. This is being pushed through Rumble. That's finally got sorted. LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. If you like this space tonight, please let us know in these comments, okay? Because look, I met Dustin 2 years ago around the whole political thing in Bitcoin. Then I met Kyle, and I met Darkside. I've literally not met all three of these people have come into my life because I came into Bitcoin and actually got really, really, really active. And this is part of my activity. If you guys like these debates, there's only so many people that can run these debates. I know this isn't perfect yet, but I think it can get good. What we need from you is, one, do you like them? Two, how do you like the time? For you people in Europe, would you like this earlier? Okay. Then what topics? Okay. What topics do you want? We need to know what the topics are. I mean, I came up with 4 or 5 topics just from this conversation alone. So what topics would you want to hear? This is designed to help you think about your finances in a different way. Okay. That's really what it's like. I like the debate. Hey, I'm not going to compare $70 billion market cap to a 2 trillion. Sorry. Scrap, dude. It doesn't qualify for me. I'm like, this is a very different. It's like me comparing my little lease chartered plane to a B-52 bomber. Like, I'm sorry, but Trump's got the better airplanes. Okay, I'm going to buy his airplanes and I'll lease mine. Horrible analogy, but let us know what you like. Like, I'm really trying to help people do better in their lives. I think that one conversation, like real estate's a hot topic right now. I think some of these strategic reserves, some guys were talking about, hey, let's compare Ethereum to CoreWeave. Okay, that's cool. That's a good idea. There's a lot to talk about. We can all get smarter in the way we do that. We have the technology. All you smart people out there, okay, we need you, man. Like, I need 4 more great guys like this. So if you haven't come up and spoken before, please, I implore you to use these tools while they're available, man. I don't even think they're going to be available forever and ever. But while they're available, I want to get our community as strong as possible. So when they pull the card, there's a bunch of people bitching about it. So follow all these guys. Follow Dustin. Follow Kyle. Follow Darkside. Even follow Joe Carlosara, who didn't show up. And Dustin, it's affirmed everyone likes you when you're not wearing your sunglasses better.
I will say it helped me get in the mood to defend some meme coins, put the pit vipers on. I mean, right? Like, sometimes you just got to own it. You're lucky I didn't do the Macho Man Randy Savage and get really buck wild with it.
I hear you, bro. Well, listen, guys, thank you very much. You guys are awesome. You guys follow these guys. They're doing a lot for the community. So thank you so much. And we'll probably see you next week.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gary.